That's what I want clarification.
Yeah, so it's not off of, it would be,
So
all
if they
their
had their
requests in.
14,
So yeah, they had the 14 last year, so put the 14 back and then take 5 off.
5% off of their request.
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
And I wanted to kick back a little bit, because I agree with you, Lori, we actually, like, it was a coin toss, like, which one do we do? And my only thought process was, when it comes to the department heads, so this is just the business guy in me, I guess, but I'm frustrated that there's no leadership because nobody's in charge, there's too many cooks in the kitchen. So they're constantly canceling department head meetings. There's, Tim's trying to kind of herd them along to do different things like evaluations, but nobody's really in charge. He can't just go in there and be like, listen, you guys, you better do this. And
But
not
we
that,
can
you know
do
what I mean?
this
Like,
as a board with the chair.
we
to a certain
we
extent.
can function that way. I just, I hate bureaucracy, and everything functions better when you have a good leader and somebody that they can go to on a daily basis to resolve conflicts and disagreements. That was my thought process.
Mhm.
And then I was also
I
thinking
do
that
see that.
we could always contract out, increase our contracts to make up for the IT position, but it really is like,
But see, then Elizabeth has been doing this
Yeah.
on top of
yeah,
everything else.
yeah, I feel that.
So,
The
And-
one
and-
concern I have with a county manager, and it's a great thought, it would be a really nice thing, but half of our department heads are elected officials that don't have to answer to a county manager. At the end of the day, they can tell them to pound sand on anything, so I just,
Yeah,
and when we see the pushback that we get already, if we put someone that's marching in the office every day and telling people that are not answerable to them what to do, I almost see an explosion coming with this. And ultimately, for me, at the end of the day, what I look at with these two positions, I really like the IT position, especially with the courthouse coming. But at the end of the day, these are two positions we're living without right now.
Exactly.
And I'm leaning to putting them both on the scrap heap for right now.
I mean, I'd be open to that too. I mean,
Yeah, I
we just,
But we have, Lori's got a opinion right there. Come on up.
I just want to speak as a department head. I really support an IT on the ground here with us to support Jennifer and Mike because their plates are overloaded, and when you don't have somebody else here on the ground to help them that's 300 miles away, that's not good help. It's not good support. It's not good for us either because we spend downtime waiting. So I'd really like to see the IT person.
I'm fine with it, and we can afford it. We're in a position under previous, we can more than afford it if these crazy revenue numbers turn out to be correct, but under what we're used to operating, we can make this happen. In fact, it saves us more money to do the IT versus the county manager, so.
I think that we ought to do the IT myself. I really do.
I'd like to, like some of like Elizabeth's input, because she's kind of the
She's
main,
the
the
one
main,
that's
between
right.
these two, like she kind of does both of them right now anyway, so I'd like her input as far as maybe what would be the best for, what she would think would be the best.
Well, I think that both positions are very important to the county. I do think the one that's going to be more impacting at this time for all of your department heads and your elected officials is going to be that IT engineer on the ground here, providing the support to the departments, because Shane, you're absolutely correct, a county manager probably can't make an elected official do anything, so there's more limited impact, but an IT engineer can definitely get in their office and make sure that elections are working, or they can hit the DevNet server to issue treasury bills, or if the scanners are down, they can get those back up. And it would also provide better mentoring for your two technicians who would grow into their positions more effectively. So that would be my opinion on the two positions. I think they're both very crucial to our growth and development overall as a county government. But if I had to say one or the other, I would recommend to you the IT engineer.
I agree with Shane. We've gone on for a long time. We don't know what the budget's gonna look like coming out of the legislature. To jump up and say we're gonna create a couple of positions or even one. We've done well the way we are. As we move forward on, we're in this particular year is just a different one because of revenues that are coming with the pandemic, it's unknown what we're getting. But the county is doing well, and we've done a good job, but it's staying status quo, because I think the department heads know who to call. And as far as the county manager goes, I've been kind of always on the, not in favor of a county manager right now, because we deal with department heads and elected officials, like we say. But as we, you know, a pound foolish, just because we got a lot of money doesn't mean we have to spend it. And by hiring one or two of these, let's say we get an IT manager, IT guy, well, just use that. And he comes to you and he finds out he doesn't like it, then he moves, because that's been happening all over the place. And, you know, for whatever reason, then you're continually trying to hire. But I think the way the county is operating, if we were really doing bad, I could say, yeah, we need help, but we aren't. And on the IT part of it, yeah, with the new Justice Center and that, we still have a contract with BCT. We have, they come in with tickets and they do their job. But to, yeah, I personally think this is not the year to hire either one. That's my opinion. But based on that, because we are doing fine. If we weren't, it'd be a different thing. I know you're doing a great job carrying 3 or 4 hats, but and unless you absolutely don't want to do it, I agree with Shane. I don't think either one of these jobs is necessary at this time. Go ahead, Travis.
Yeah, well, and then, I mean, to that point, you know, there's obviously significant headwinds with mining tax and Green New Deal and these type of things that can really do bad harm to this community. My thought is, you know, we can scrap both those for now, submit the preliminary budget, and then if the revenue, you know, depending on where the actual revenues come in, then this 5% cut across the board, we can either restore that fully or back it off a few percent once we have the better knowledge and numbers for the final budget.
Elizabeth, did this put in Mr. Calderwood's,
Yes.
okay,
We added,
the maintenance senior?
yeah,
Was it maintenance senior?
It is already in the budget as it
Okay.
exists, yes. And
And
so,
did we do, I talked to you the other day about the transfer now that we're going from the pandemic, not in the pandemic, and what we paid. We can't pay our public health officer $100, but I think $5,000 a month right now is probably not necessary, so we can negotiate with Darren. I don't want to lose Darren, but I think that we're gonna be in a slowdown, you know, the workload's gonna slow down. So is the compensation for the workload equal?
I think we decided in that resolution what the follow-up salary was gonna.
I think it was
Yes.
$1,000 a month.
Then that's okay too. I'm good there. Because
Yes.
we're paying $5,000 a month and we keep our public health officer compensated, but we don't pay the 5. We just drop it down to 1,000. 1,000's good. And he can, and if there's other stuff that comes on, we can add to that, but
I
I think,
did budget in next fiscal year $12,000
okay.
for the public health officer contract, knowing that it dropped from it will most likely in the upcoming months drop from that $5,000 pandemic level down to $1,000 for routine public health officer. And that is what you did within your contract with,
Exactly, that's
Darren.
just what I was gonna say. I think that he was aware of it when the contract was entered into.
yes,
Okay. That answered that. Thank you.
certainly.
Anybody else got anything on what Travis and Elizabeth and Ian did? I think they did a good job.
The one thing I didn't get to voice with was the vehicles on shopping used. You know, I recently bought a pickup. I went shop new, thought it was ridiculous, bought a good used. It's giving me no trouble. I have no problem at all with purchasing
Yeah.
Okay.
used vehicles. Hell, we bought some old trucks for another public agency for the city when I was on there 15 years ago, and they're still utilizing those same vehicles today, so.
Okay.
No, I do too. I hate to pay that as soon as you drive it off of the lot. The number drops.
You guys, I'm good. I'm good.
I had one thing to say, and Elizabeth didn't pay me to say it. But I feel bad that, I don't like saying we've made it this far without one, we should keep going. She's operating by orders of magnitude outside of her job description. And I don't like just so easily saying she should just continue to do that.
I'm with you 100%.
And here's the deal, if we don't do a county manager, and we switch to the IT position, we're now saving more money than has been suggested here. We're not talking about huge cuts, 5%'s nothing. We're putting ourselves in a very, very good position. And we're not barely skimming either. We're putting ourselves in a position, meeting our 25% resolution, which still puts us in a ridiculously good position if things go sideways revenue-wise. And this is all under the assumption that our revenues are what they were pre-pandemic. And I think that I don't think there's a whole lot of unknowns revenue-wise, except for dumb things like Green New Deal stuff. But even then, $111,000 is something we can figure out if we need to. For the sake of, we are a growing organization. This county is growing. And we need to set ourselves up to manage that growth with efficiency and with excellence, rather than just kind of living.
I agree. I agree. This is one thing I do feel strong that we should really work towards, because, I mean, we've been trying to get out of the dinosaur ages forever. And I think that this would be a smart move. I do.
I'm comfortable leaving the IT in for the preliminary and then making a decision as we get towards the end of the legislative session and as we get truer revenue picture, and then seeing where we're at there. I'm fine with leaving it in for the preliminary. It just with the understanding that it may be something we may have to reconsider.
Elizabeth, would you bring back what you think, or basically, let's say, okay, we get the IT manager, they're fully up to speed, you know, what our cost savings from the contract services would be, and then we can really get a true picture of the net dollars that this would cost.
Okay.
I don't think you're gonna see a huge savings in the first year, especially when you consider the Justice Center and then getting somebody on board and up and running. I think year 2 is where you're gonna really see the considerable change.
Yeah, absolutely, but at least we'll know, you know, looking out when it's all up and running, where we're at.
And I'd just like to mention that one of the things I was asked to look into is how can we utilize the American Rescue Plan funding? One of the things that provides for is to assist with broadband infrastructure. So if some way we can write this position so that it is working on the broadband infrastructure, we may be able to fund that out of, portion of this position out of that as well. So I still don't have enough definition from the federal levels as to specifics, but I believe someone asked me to look into that, and it may be that we could utilize some of those funds for this new position, which doesn't exist at this point.
You know what, Elizabeth, maybe Dagny might know a little bit more about that.
I was gonna try and reach out to her. I know she's just really
Yeah, just send her a text.
working
and
with
when
the
then she can
legislature.
Yeah, and then she could probably, you know, get back to you when it's convenient.
Okay,
And if you don't have her number, I can give it to you.
I'll go ahead and send her an email this
Email.
afternoon.
Yeah.
And while we're in the process of considering new vehicles, I would like to see an updated list from each department of their vehicles, age, mileage, and condition.
Okay, sorry, don't take shorthand.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think that Bill is writing that down too.
Okay. I wanted to also mention that there are a few other things that have, we need to look at. One of the things I provided to you was the fund balances for each fund, special revenue fund. And if you'll recall, we had some issues with some of those. And we need to address those before I can file a report with the state, and I apologize, I'm trying to find my little page here. because we still have two funds that are not balanced properly, that will need to be balanced in order for us to go ahead and file the budget. And I still can't find that, let me pull it up electronically. But one of those funds was the drug rehab program. Okay, and so I sat down and I talked with Judge Dabrescu yesterday regarding that. And the problem is, oh, here we go, is that his proposal, even with his grants, he gets approximately, I believe, somewhere in the neighborhood of $90,000 in grants, $100,000 in grants. And his projected ending fund balance for next year is a negative $18,977. I cannot file that budget. So he either has to cut the program, or we need to find a way to increase revenues. And Travis, did you have a question?
On the sheet I'm looking at, it has 58,000, has that been modified to?
No, that is the decrease.
Oh, decrease, okay.
Yes.
Oh, I see where you're looking.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, so it's the calculated ending fund balance is a negative 18,977.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, so, in discussing that with him, it's, some of the legislation that's going through, some of his grant funding is based on traffic tickets. And if you've been watching the legislation that's going by, you've seen that they're trying to make that from criminal to civil and doing away with some of these revenues. So his funding may even go down further. But this is an important program. I think when we had our budget hearings, you heard him talk about the success of his program and getting people back off of drugs and back into meaningful roles in our communities. And so the two things that we came up with, because we talked about him increasing his fees, and there are limits to where he can increase those to, and at this point from our discussions yesterday, he told me that he has hit the maximum end of where he can assess those fees to the people who participate in the program. And so the two things that we came up with is if we can get a general fund subsidy for 1 year, and then have permission to utilize Tabitha, our grant writer, to find additional grant funds to help him shore up this for FY23. So I am hoping that you would be open to perhaps somewhere between a $25,000 and $75,000 subsidy one time to this fund to keep it going while we look for and try and get grants that will be of benefit to his program so that we don't have to subsidize. Other than that, he would have to cut the program back, and I wouldn't recommend that because I do believe it really is a beneficial program for our communities.
Based on what we see and how the position that we're in, I think we're in a position to go ahead and do that because we're doing fine on the budget wise, and we would have that, keep that program flowing, and we could always, if we get the grant, replace it. But rather than allow that to maybe go away and then have to restart it, I don't think that's such a good idea. So if we set aside the money, $25,000 to $75,000 to go into that, and then if we do get the grants, we can put back. Is that right? Am I right?
Well, once you contribute to that fund, it would stay there.
I mean, we
Okay.
wouldn't have to
The one
contribute
time.
again.
Okay.
Once they
It'll
got it.
just be a one-shot deal.
Okay.
Which, at the time we're at, I don't see this as a time to cut back on this program.
So
Yeah.
25 to 75 is pretty broad range. 25 barely keeps us out of the hole. 75 seems a little extreme to me. I'm more comfortable at 50, but.
That's got a question.
Desi?
I just wanted to ask, since they're in drug court, the majority are going to be low income, is this something that my fund, since I have substantial, can subsidize? It's the same clientele.
That would be great. Back to back.
I don't know if that is allowable or not.
If-
We can certainly
If they're low
look
income,
at that.
would this fit in medical? Because the drug treatment is technically medical. And I'm paying medical stuff for Scott for pretty much the same thing.
Yeah, I am totally, because a big component of it is the drug counseling. And we can definitely discuss that with Judge Rescue, because one of the things that we had talked about yesterday is making these, potentially our facility here, our drug court facility, a Medicaid eligible facility, but it has to do with how that is set up and the different, degrees, so.
Which I can help with, because with his, I'm already doing Medicaid,
Okay,
so.
okay, all right.
Okay,
Great.
awesome.
Awesome, thank you.
You're
Thank you,
welcome.
Danny.
Thanks, Deb.
So we want to then, instead of doing that, amend the social services budget to include funding for the drug court.
Well, if it's workable.
Yeah,
If
if
it's
it's
workable,
if it's
then with
legal.
the judge,
Yes,
yes.
that's the thing I wanna make sure we're good on before I say that's a perfect idea. I appreciate the proposed solution, but I just wanna make sure we're not gonna get in trouble.
Move forward with caution.
Yeah.
Okay, so
But that's a good
are we
fix.
good with the $50,000 number from the
That's
general
good.
fund if we cannot get it to work through social services?
Yeah, that's a little better than double what the budget shortfall was gonna be, so I'm comfortable with that. Are you guys good with that?
Yep.
Okay, the other one that is in a negative fund balance is going to be the Justice Court House Arrest Program. And I believe we have a $2,500 subsidy over there already from the general fund. I believe that some of this is, we've gotten decreased revenues due to, you know, what's been going on with the whole COVID-19. So it's about $1,504 short, so on a one-time basis, I would like to keep that program going because it's much less expensive to have someone on house arrest than to have them incarcerated in our jail. And so if we can just take that from $2,500 up to $4,004, that should keep that program even. And as we always do, we do an amount not to exceed that amount, so if it comes in less, we don't transfer the full amount.
Perfect, I'll be comfortable with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Seems like we've had a whole community on, or a whole country on house arrest for the last year.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, so that transfer will come from the general fund then, and then go over to the Justice Court House Arrest. Another thing that I wanted to cover with you is I did provide you with several handouts. One of those handouts was a revised estimate that I received from Bill Collier regarding outsourcing the maintenance, or I'm sorry, the custodian at the new Justice Center. And that's this sheet here. And if you look at that, doing 5 days per week will result in a cost, annual cost of $46,776. Your cost for the new custodian is $53,085. You have a $6,300 savings there. Again, I would mention that, and I believe they provided this revised because of square footage. They didn't have the square footage quite right the
That's
first
right.
time. And so I would say again that, you know, we pull these positions here in the county for different purposes other than just custodial, whether that's shoveling outside or whatever, and Bill has his hand up, so I'll let him provide additional information.
I would recommend, because thinking about our workload that'll be so decreased at the courthouse, to maybe use this provider 2 days a week, and then use our which was the
1824.
1824, use that as a budget number, and then we'll use our janitor staff to fill in the extra times. There may be some conflicts, I'm not really sure about, sometimes some of the department head and elected officials, they don't like employees that they are not familiar with inside their office, cleaning things around their desks and stuff, so I would recommend going with the 2 days a week, and then I think we'll be fine with this staff that we have. That will just kind of help with the additional cleaning at the new courthouse. Questions?
So you wouldn't need another janitor position, just the 2 days per week?
2 days.
The current
yeah.
janitor staff you have would be adequate with the 2 day a week?
That would be my recommendation, yeah. Because of the prices that come in, it's quite a bit cheaper than a
Just
full-time
saved us
employee.
30 grand. Almost.
I disagree, because person under your direction and going in and out of all the courtrooms every single day. That person works for the county. You get a contract person, and you stated it just a minute ago, that some of these offices might not be as comfortable with somebody doing that. I'm in favor always of if we can put a person to work and give them a good quality job, and they come in and out every day and they're productive citizens, I think that's way better than going and outsourcing to a contract person. I'm in favor of hiring a full-time janitor that can help, even if we have some other needs at this courthouse or whatever, but rather than contracting out with somebody that might be good, might not, I don't know. But if we have a person and they're working for the county, they're getting a PERS, they're working towards a retirement, it's a beneficial thing for that person to come on, and we can get a quality applicant. I just feel that it's important to hire a full-time person and have that person a productive citizen and have a good paying job with a future on it. And I just don't like outsourcing, especially in a new facility, a brand new courthouse where you're gonna have attorneys, you're gonna have, it just is safer. It's money well spent to have a full-time person on board. That's just my opinion. We might save a few dollars by contracting it, but is it worth it to save a few dollars as opposed to hiring somebody and having them under our jurisdiction? I mean, that's my opinion. You're in business, Shane, would you rather contract, or keep your employees under your?
Ultimately, at the end of the day, there's two things that we can control really. We're at the mercy of what our revenues are. We can control basically our purchases and our labor. And if this labor comes in less expensive, these people are employed by a company that is responsible for getting them what benefits they have. These are not people that are gonna roll into town 2 days a week and clean this. These are people that are living in our community, that are working for this company, it gives them the same thing as if they had a job working for the county. So I don't think it's a matter of settling for less. I think it's a matter of making a cost-effective decision, and as Ian said, we're saving 30 grand by doing this. It's a cost-effective decision. I would go with the contract.
I'd also like to make sure we understand, this company already cleans the school district and many places in town. They already are well known and do a great job.
I live across the street from a school, and I see these guys how they're handling things for the school district. They're gonna.
I believe they also do snow removal.
They are doing the snow removal. They're out there. Those guys are out there. It snows. They wake me up at 3:30 in the morning out there on ATVs and stuff plowing. These guys are on the job. I see the landscaping looks good on the outside. The school seems to be in good condition and in good hands. And if we as a government can help support a business that's employing people in our community, I think it's the same benefit as we have in employing them in-house, and especially if we can do it in a more cost-effective manner.
And that's why we have discussions at this table. I have an opinion that's different than others, and that's okay. If this commission decides that it's better to contract, then fine. I voiced my opinion as to why I think we should hire. We heard that the cost effectiveness, and so whatever this commission decides, you had your hand up?
If I could just add, also just long-term planning, just thinking as far as turnover for the county, is one of the things that we've talked about over and over again as far as our 5 to 7 year timeline on the demographics of our county. We also have to be thinking about backfilling positions, because as you look at our demographics, when you're talking about custodians and whatnot, that's very likely that we're gonna have to go out and try to find somebody here in that 5 to 7 year time frame. So it's also a thoughtful way of looking at as far as recruiting right now, and grooming somebody later on. I just wanted to throw that bone out there for you also to chew on.
Anyone else got an opinion?
I think I tend to agree with Shane and Ian and Lori. If it feels good with the 2 days a week, try it out. This this fiscal year, and if there's issues, then we readdress the next budget and, adjust as needed. So I